3 women turned me into a lady. The first time I met Ashley was completely by chance. Yet it became one of those moments that stayed in my mind. She was walking down the street when a pile of folders slipped from her arms, scattering papers across the sidewalk. I rushed over to help before the wind could carry them away. What began as a simple act of assistance quickly turned into an effortless conversation. After chatting for a few minutes, Ashley surprised me by inviting me out for drinks later that evening. There was no way I was going to decline. She was beautiful, charismatic, and had a confidence that instantly drew people in. Before leaving, she handed me a business card. Looking at it, I learned she worked as a stylist and makeup artist at one of the city's most fashionable salons. I slipped the card into my wallet and promised to pick her up after work around 5 o'clock. She agreed with a warm smile before heading off. The rest of the day seemed to crawl by as I counted the hours until our date. A few minutes before 5, I stepped into the salon and approached the reception desk. I explained that I was there to see Ashley. The receptionist, Lisa, greeted me politely and asked me to have a seat while I waited. Laughing, I clarified that I wasn't a client. I was actually Ashley's date for the evening. Lisa's grin widened. She complimented my shoulder-length hair and remarked that Ashley was the salon's most talented stylist. According to her, Ashley could create incredible looks with hair like mine. I thanked her as she disappeared into the back to let Ashley know I had arrived. While waiting, I picked up a magazine from the coffee table. At first, I only flipped through it to pass the time, but before long, I found myself fascinated by the elegant hairstyles and fashion spreads. The creativity and detail of the designs were surprisingly impressive. I was so absorbed in the pages that I didn't notice Ashley returning until her voice pulled me back to reality. Catching me admiring one of the featured styles, she smiled and asked if I liked what I saw. I admitted that the looks were impressive. With a playful laugh, she told me she could recreate any of them without much trouble. Jokingly, I replied that I'd love to see that for myself someday. Her smile instantly grew wider. Without another word, she took my hand, set the magazine aside, and led me out of the salon. We headed to a charming restaurant nearby that Lisa had recommended. Soon, we were seated in a quiet corner booth away from the evening crowd. Our server, Carla, suggested a bottle of red wine to start the night. I looked at Ashley, who immediately approved with an enthusiastic smile. Moments later, Carla returned with the bottle, poured a sample, and waited for my reaction. One sip was enough to tell me she had chosen well. Ashley raised her glass toward mine.
"To unexpected encounters," she said.
Our glasses touched softly, marking the true beginning of the evening. As we talked, I asked Ashley whether she enjoyed working at the salon. The question sparked an instant glow in her expression. She explained that she loved helping people discover new confidence through their appearance. Seeing clients leave happier than when they arrived was her favorite part of the job. Perhaps it was the wine making me bold, but eventually I teased her about the magazine hairstyles. I jokingly suggested that recreating those glamorous looks couldn't be as easy as she claimed. Ashley leaned forward with a look of determination. "Would you be willing to let me prove it?"
she asked.
Curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed. After finishing our wine and snacks, we returned to the salon. Lisa was still at the reception desk sorting paperwork when we walked in. She glanced up, and Ashley immediately announced that I had accepted her challenge. Before I had a chance to reconsider, Ashley guided me into the styling area and settled me into one of the salon chairs. She carefully examined my hair, combing through it while assessing its length and texture. Seemingly satisfied with what she found, she draped a cape around my shoulders and told me to sit back and enjoy the experience. By then, Lisa had joined us carrying the same magazine I had been reading earlier. Ashley flipped through several pages before stopping at a particular style and showing it to Lisa. The two exchanged amused smiles and knowing nods. Whatever they had chosen, they made absolutely sure I couldn't see it. A few moments later, Ashley gently reclined my chair toward the salon sink. Warm water flowed through my hair as she carefully worked shampoo into it, her fingertips massaging my scalp in slow, relaxing circles. The tension I hadn't even realized I was carrying seemed to melt away instantly. While Ashley focused on my hair, Lisa struck up a conversation and asked whether I had ever treated myself to a professional manicure. When I admitted that I hadn't, she smiled mischievously and assured me that tonight was the perfect opportunity to change that. After thoroughly rinsing the shampoo, Ashley applied a silky conditioning treatment and worked it evenly through my hair. She explained that it would improve texture, increase volume, and leave my hair feeling softer than ever. As the treatment settled in, a gentle tingling sensation spread across my scalp. Surprisingly, it felt wonderful. When I mentioned that out loud, Ashley laughed and assured me that it meant everything was working exactly as intended. For the next 20 minutes, I relaxed while the treatment did its job. Eventually, she rinsed it away and proudly declared that my hair already looked healthier and fuller. Just then, Lisa returned carrying a tote bag and a salon cart loaded with supplies. One glance at my hair was enough for her to nod approvingly. Ashley wrapped a towel around my head and raised the chair upright. Turning me toward the mirror, she carefully cleaned the hairline at the back of my neck with a small precision razor. Once she removed the towel, I blinked in surprise. The difference was remarkable. My hair looked noticeably thicker, smoother, and far more voluminous than it had only an hour earlier.
When I commented on the
transformation, Ashley simply smiled and informed me that the real work was only beginning. She methodically divided my hair into section after section while arranging an assortment of rollers nearby. With practiced speed, she wrapped each section around curlers of different sizes. Before long, my entire head was covered. I couldn't help chuckling at the sight of myself. Yet, instead of feeling embarrassed, I found myself genuinely curious about the final result. Ashley wheeled a large hooded dryer over and lowered it into position. The gentle warmth surrounding my head was surprisingly soothing. Within minutes, my eyelids felt heavy. While I sat beneath the dryer, Lisa began working on my hands. She soaked my fingers in warm water before carefully shaping my nails and tending to every detail with impressive precision. The combination of warm air, gentle conversation, and careful attention made it almost impossible to stay fully awake. I drifted in and out of a peaceful haze. At some point, Lisa quietly removed my shoes and socks. Before I could even ask what she was doing, my feet were lowered into a warm, bubbling foot bath. This soothing vibration sent a wave of relaxation through my entire body. Time seemed to vanish. Eventually, the dryer switched to a cool setting before shutting off entirely. Ashley returned and began removing the curlers one by one. As each roller came free, a perfectly formed curl sprang into place. Soon, every curler had been removed, revealing a head full of glossy, defined curls. I stared into the mirror, fascinated by the dramatic change. Ashley wasn't finished yet. With the help of combs, pins, and Lisa's assistance, she carefully shaped and arranged the curls into an elegant style. Together, they adjusted every section with incredible attention to detail. Nearly 30 minutes later, Ashley finally stepped back and admired her work. I was stunned. The finished hairstyle looked strikingly similar to one of the glamorous magazine looks I had admired earlier. Soft curls framed my face beautifully, creating a polished and sophisticated appearance that seemed almost unreal. Shaking my head in disbelief, I admitted that she had completely exceeded my expectations. Ashley simply smiled and leaned closer. "Oh, we're not finished yet," she whispered. Confused, I glanced downward for the first time. My breath caught immediately. Every toenail gleamed with a flawless coat of deep cherry red polish. Startled, I quickly raised my hands and discovered that my fingernails matched perfectly. The realization left me speechless. The first thing I noticed was my nails. Not only were they polished to perfection, but they were also noticeably longer than before. Their smooth shape and glossy finish looked remarkably natural. Lisa smiled proudly and explained that she had used a professional gel overlay technique along with temporary extension forms to create the elegant appearance. She even showed me some of the small tools she had used during the process. I turned my hands over slowly, studying them from every angle. They looked completely different. Strangely enough, I didn't dislike the change. Lisa gently touched one of my earlobes and exchanged a playful glance with Ashley. Without needing any further explanation, Ashley nodded in agreement. A short while later, I found myself wearing a pair of large silver hoop earrings. As I moved my head, the hoops brushed softly against the curls framing my face. The unfamiliar sensation caught my attention immediately. It felt unusual, yet oddly enjoyable. Next, Ashley guided me toward a comfortable treatment chair. Once I settled in, she carefully began reshaping my eyebrows. With patient precision, she refined them into softer, more elegant arches that subtly altered the appearance of my entire face. Every few minutes, she held up a mirror so I could see the progress. The changes were surprisingly dramatic. Little by little, my features appeared smoother and more refined. Ashley continued by carefully removing any remaining facial stubble before applying a cool lotion that left my skin feeling refreshed. Then came the makeup. She blended foundation evenly across my face, creating a flawless complexion. Soft shades enhanced my eyes while eyeliner added definition and mascara lengthened my lashes. Finally, a rich cherry-colored lipstick completed the look. When Ashley stepped aside, I stared at my reflection. For several seconds, I couldn't find words. The person looking back at me seemed almost like a stranger. The styled curls, polished nails, carefully shaped brows, elegant makeup, and silver earrings had transformed my appearance so dramatically that it was difficult to connect the reflection with the person who had entered the salon only hours earlier. I slowly raised a hand toward my face, trying to process what I was seeing. Ashley and Lisa exchanged satisfied smiles as they watched my reaction. Before I could fully gather my thoughts, they guided me into another area of the salon where the transformation continued. A shaping garment was fitted around my waist and hips, creating smoother lines beneath clothing. Over it came a beautifully detailed corset. Lisa tightened the laces gradually, adjusting the fit until my posture naturally straightened and my silhouette appeared more defined. The sensation was unfamiliar but surprisingly elegant. Additional shaping pieces completed the look beneath the outfit, while soft hosiery was carefully pulled into place, creating a sleek and polished appearance. Standing beneath the salon lights surrounded by mirrors, I barely recognized my own outline. Then Lisa returned carrying an elegant black evening gown draped across her arms. With Ashley's assistance, I carefully stepped into it. The fabric flowed upward before settling perfectly into place. Once the zipper was secured and every detail adjusted, the gown seemed tailored specifically for me. I looked down in astonishment. The dress followed every contour gracefully, creating an appearance that felt both sophisticated and striking. Unable to resist, I lightly brushed my hands across the smooth fabric. Still struggling to believe the transformation taking shape before my eyes. Finally, Lisa presented a pair of elegant black heels. She secured the delicate straps around my ankles before helping me stand. My first few steps were hesitant and awkward, but with a little guidance, I gradually found my balance. Then, they led me to a full-length mirror. The sight took my breath away. Gone was the casually dressed man who had entered the salon that evening. In his place stood a glamorous figure with perfectly styled curls, flawless makeup, elegant jewelry, polished nails, and a stunning black gown that radiated confidence and sophistication. For a long moment, I simply stared. Ashley stepped beside me and admired the finished result with obvious pride. "Well?" she asked softly. I opened my mouth to answer, but for the first time all evening, I couldn't think of a single thing to say. Eventually, I found my voice and admitted that their work was incredible. The person staring back from the mirror looked elegant, confident, and completely transformed. Ashley smiled with obvious satisfaction before leaning closer. "You've only seen the first chapter," she said softly. Her words caught me off guard. Part of me felt overwhelmed, yet another part was strangely intrigued. Standing there, I couldn't stop studying my reflection. My gaze followed the silhouette created by the gown, the carefully styled hair, and the polished details that had changed my appearance so dramatically. Ashley gently took one of my hands while Lisa held the other. To them, it seemed the transformation was already complete. After a thoughtful pause, Ashley suggested a new name, Brienne. I quietly repeated it to myself.
Brienne.
The name rolled off my tongue naturally, and to my surprise, it immediately felt familiar. A smile appeared before I could stop it. Both women noticed. Moments later, we were sharing hugs while Ashley and Lisa congratulated me as though I had reached an important milestone. Then they surprised me again with an unexpected offer. They wanted me to stay and train at the salon. At first, I would assist with simple tasks, but eventually I could learn styling techniques and work toward becoming a professional stylist myself. The proposal seemed impossible to process. Yet somehow, my answer came instantly. I accepted. Ashley and Lisa exchanged excited smiles and immediately began discussing plans for my training. I would start the following day and attend classes at the beauty school connected to the salon. There was even a room available above the building where I could stay while learning the business. The entire situation felt unreal. Instead of fear, however, I felt anticipation. For the first time, I was curious about where this unexpected path might lead. The next morning, I woke slowly and immediately realized I wasn't in my own bedroom. Everything felt unfamiliar. The bed was larger than mine, and soft satin sheets covered me. As I pushed them aside, my attention immediately fell on my hands. Long, perfectly polished nails greeted me. Memories from the previous evening came back only in scattered fragments. Looking down, I noticed matching polish on my toes and silky pajamas replacing my usual sleepwear. Curious and confused, I hurried toward the bathroom. The reflection waiting for me stopped me in my tracks. My hair remained beautifully styled with soft curls framing my face. Even after a night's sleep, it still looked remarkably polished. My brows retained their refined shape, and traces of makeup continued to soften my features. I found myself staring longer than expected. Then came a knock at the door. When I opened it, Ashley stood there smiling. She immediately caught me glancing back toward the mirror and laughed. "So, what do you think?" she asked. I admitted that most of the previous night felt like a blur. Beyond dinner and a few conversations, my memories seemed surprisingly incomplete. Ashley reminded me about our challenge at the salon and the makeover that followed. With a playful gesture toward my reflection, she grinned. "That's the result." I shook my head in disbelief. Whatever else I remembered, one thing was undeniable. She was exceptionally talented. Ashley then suggested I get ready and join her downstairs. Before leaving, she casually mentioned that my clothes had been cleaned and that I was welcome to borrow something from her wardrobe. After she left, curiosity eventually got the better of me. Opening the closet revealed rows of carefully organized outfits. After several minutes of searching, I selected a conservative blue pants suit that seemed simple enough. Getting dressed felt unusual, but not uncomfortable. Soon afterward, I made my way downstairs. Ashley was waiting in the kitchen alongside Lisa, who introduced herself properly. I complimented her work from the previous evening, earning amused smiles from both women. Over coffee, the conversation eventually turned back to the salon and the makeover. I insisted that despite everything, I still thought of myself the same way I always had. Neither woman argued. Instead, they simply smiled and encouraged me to keep an open mind. Not long afterward, Lisa mentioned that I had promised to help with the styling demonstration. Although I couldn't remember making such a promise, I found myself agreeing anyway. Minutes later, we were back inside the salon. Under Ashley's guidance, I carefully washed Lisa's hair and learned the basics of preparing it for styling. My movements were hesitant at first, but both women encouraged me as I worked. Ashley demonstrated sectioning techniques and showed me how to place rollers correctly. Slowly, my confidence improved. The results weren't perfect, but they were enough to earn praise from both instructors. "You're learning quickly," Ashley said. The compliment made me smile. After Lisa settled beneath the salon dryer, Ashley guided me toward another chair. She explained several skincare and grooming techniques used by professionals to create smooth, polished looks for clients. As she worked, she described the importance of presentation, attention to detail, and confidence, qualities she believed every successful stylist needed to understand. Listening to her, I began to realize that the salon wasn't simply changing appearances. It was teaching people how to see themselves differently. Normally, I should have questioned something so extreme. But instead, I simply nodded along, accepting every word she said without resistance. For nearly 15 minutes, I remained perfectly still on the table. Eventually, Ashley returned carrying warm water and soft cloth. Gently, she wiped away every trace of the clear solution from my skin. "There," she said proudly. "Perfectly smooth." As my fingers brushed across my chest and arms, a cool shiver swept down my spine. My skin felt unbelievably soft, almost unreal. I couldn't stop touching it. "It feels amazing," I admitted quietly. Ashley smiled with satisfaction while I slipped the blue pantsuit back on. Then she handed me a pair of sheer nylon socks and instructed me to put them on. Once I had, she knelt gracefully and slid a pair of black 3-inch pumps onto my feet. The moment I stood up, I wobbled awkwardly. Ashley studied me with a laugh. "You'll wear heels whenever you're in the salon," she explained. "It'll help you get used to walking in them while you work." Again, I accepted her words without argument. At first, my steps were clumsy and uncertain, but slowly, I found a rhythm. Before long, the heels no longer felt impossible. Curious whether Lisa's curls were ready, I carefully walked over to the dryer station. Lisa smiled brightly the instant she saw me approaching. Her eyes drifted toward the heels on my feet. "You look absolutely breathtaking," she said warmly. Heat rushed into my cheeks at the compliment. I helped her from beneath the dryer before beginning to carefully remove each curler from her hair, while Ashley observed nearby. As the final roller slipped free, soft curls cascaded beautifully around Lisa's shoulders. Ashley handed me a styling brush and instructed me to gently shape the curls backward. Nervously, I followed her directions. To my amazement, the curls settled perfectly into place. Lisa admired herself in the mirror before turning and winking at me. Then she rose from the chair, kissed my cheek softly, and whispered that I would become a wonderful stylist someday. My smile widened instantly. Ashley praised my work as well, insisting I would fit naturally into the salon once I learned more. Oddly enough, all their talk about me working beside them never felt strange or alarming. Instead, it filled me with a warm sense of belonging. For the first time in a long while, I felt wanted. A short while later, another woman entered the salon. It was Carla, the waitress from the restaurant the night before. She glanced over me approvingly before motioning Ashley aside for private conversation. I watched as Carla discreetly handed Ashley a small box. Moments later, Ashley and Lisa examined its contents together, whispering quietly between themselves. Ashley passed Lisa a tiny vial before Lisa disappeared briefly into the kitchen area. When she returned, she carried several glasses of juice. She handed one to me with a pleasant smile, and we continued chatting casually while I drank. Yet, after several sips, concentrating became strangely difficult. Ashley's voice sounded distant and slow, but somehow every word still sank deeply into my thoughts. Both Ashley and Lisa began repeating the same ideas over and over. I would leave my old job. I would move in with Ashley. I would become their salon apprentice. The phrases circled endlessly in my mind until eventually I caught myself quietly repeating them.
2.
Suddenly, Ashley clapped her hand sharply, pulling my full attention toward her. "Would you like me to fix your hair before we decide anything?" she asked sweetly. Lisa immediately encouraged me to say,